Hello and welcome to Scholar Ready. Today's newsletter is a little different in that today's newsletter will be online, and today the article is College 101 for Middle School Parents. My name is Jennifer Ledwith and I'm the owner and director of Scholar Ready, and Scholar Ready offers test preparation, math tutoring, and essay writing assistance to students in the primarily in maybe the upper grades of middle school, high school, and throughout college. We have a lot. We have a private practice, and we also have a large group practice. Our large group meets in the fall, the spring, and the summertime at the University of Houston Clear Lake. And that large practice is studying for and preparing for the SAT. Our next class will be in August, so if you're interested, please head to U of H's website, U of H Clear Lake's website, uhcl.edu, and the class is located in the Center for Executive Education. And we also have a private practice where we meet with students and preparing them for exams, helping them with math, helping them with writing, and we conduct that actually through Skype. And we have students in the Austin area, in Galveston, in the Houston metropolitan area, as well as Puerto Rico and Jackson, Mississippi. Thank you for tuning in today. Today we're going to talk about College 101 for middle school parents. Often middle school parents will ask me, Jennifer, when should we start preparing our son, our daughter for the exams? All right, let me tell you. And so when should you start? So a better question would be, when do you start preparing for college? When should middle school students start preparing for college? And the answer is early. They should start now, and they should have started from when they were very little. And let me discuss what that means. In preparation in terms of not only the financial aspects of, saving for college and making sure that they're in a place where they can get a really strong foundation for college, but also setting the expectations of going to college. I know I've spoken with people who, moms who went back to school after they became moms, and they said, yeah, I always took my son or my daughter to class with me, and that's an expectation of, and it sets the expectation of, this is important, college is important, higher education is important. Set expectations. I attended graduation a few weeks or last week, and even though it was a graduation for grown-ups, there were little kids there, and it's good to take the little ones to graduation and have them see how important it is and the big deal that we make out of people when they walk across the stage and they get that degree, or in some cases, like my friend this past weekend, he received his Master's in Business Administration when they hood the students. Encourage them to see that. Another expectation you can set is, when you have older siblings going away to college, pack them in the car with you and take them to that college for and have the little ones as helpful as they can be. Have them help that older sibling or older cousin or aunt or uncle actually move into the dorms and see what that's like. That's going to set an expectation. It's so much more effective to where if you set the expectation and you cultivate the soil, and in order for in order to bear fruit as the student becomes older and graduates high school and college and so forth, it's so important to be able to cultivate that soil now, cultivate the environment, put them in an environment where people are encouraging them to go to college. It's so much easier now when they're younger, because when they get to be deeper in their teenage years, as parents, you already know they're not going to listen to you. Your mom, your dad, you don't know anything. And but if they get that message early and often, and even in some of the most unexpected ways of just going to a ceremony or going and helping someone move into college, that's going to make a big difference in terms of expectations. So you should start now in terms of setting expectations. All right, next thing, let's talk about exposure. And we talk about exposure, let's talk about exposures to different careers. Some felt some people have a difficult time trying to figure out what what he or she wants to do for a living because of a lack of exposure. Just if your child has an interest in art, maybe there's a summer program that's an art program. If you have a friend or a relative or colleague who practices in a certain area that your student might be interested in, see if they can tag along with that person for a day to have an understanding of what a day in the life is like. I had a conversation with a mother not too long ago, and her son was interested in becoming a dentist because his dad had been a dentist. And he's in high school, and he shadowed a dentist one day, and he decided, oh, I do not like this. Blood is not for me. And often people don't really think about that when they think about being a dentist. So certainly expose the students to different careers in that way. There's also an exposure in terms of various summer camps. I had a friend who, of course, one of the large initiatives in our society now is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And you see so many programs for STEM throughout the summertime and throughout the school year. If you have a student who has maybe an aptitude or an interest in math or science, please have them participate in a program. I had a colleague actually who loves math, and he told me that he was so glad that his parents sent him to a summer camp in STEM when he was younger. He was glad because he discovered, and he loves math, but he discovered that he hates engineering. And that was a wonderful, he was like, that's the best thing my parents did for me, because I learned that I do not like engineering. And guess what? When he got to college, he didn't have to waste his time on pursuing engineering when it was not necessarily for him. And he was able to parlay that love of math into a degree in finance and a career in finance that continues to this day. I believe he's on the path to be a portfolio manager or an investment banker. So exposure. Okay, so the first thing is expectations. Second is exposure, exposing your kids to a number of careers. I remember when I went to, as a younger person, I went to, on a field trip, we went to the stock market, and we went to a stockbroker's office in the Galleria, in Houston Galleria. Up until that point, I always thought that the Galleria was for shopping and eating and ice skating. No, they actually have business offices in the Galleria. And listening to that stockbroker discuss talking about selling and buying and math, it planted a seed in me and made me want to pursue actually business and to have my own business. And that's partly why I'm here today, because of that exposure. All right, so we have expectations and we have exposure. Let's talk about colleges. How do you start having this conversation with them about colleges? Okay. Take your students to college fairs. There is a number of college fairs. Go to Google and look up, Google your town, Google college fairs in your town, and see which ones are available. I would pursue college fairs beyond the boundaries of your community, because you may live in a community where your more competitive colleges and universities choose not to recruit heavily in those areas. So with that in mind, think about going to some of the larger college fairs. Expose your young child to and have your student talk with the representative at the table and learn about the college, and expose him or her to those things, because it may be sometimes in our schools and in our environment, sometimes students are so focused on maybe one or two schools when there may be a better fit for that student out there. So take them to college fairs. Just go to Google college fair, my town. If you live in Duncanville, Texas, college fair, Duncanville, Texas, or even maybe think about, since that's in the Dallas Metroplex, Google some of the other cities throughout the Metroplex and do your best to make sure that you and your student, or you and your child, are attending those college fairs and making those connections and learning about what it takes. And again, once they learn about what it takes, that is another way to cultivate that soil and cultivate that environment of expectations. So we've spoken about expectations, we've spoken about exposure in summer camps and college fairs. One last thing I'd like to talk with you about is the money piece. And I'm not sure I'm not sure about the relationship that you have with money and your children. When I was growing up, my mother was very blunt with me about how much everything costs, because I used to ask her for stuff. And instead of telling me no, she told me why she could not do something. And she would tell me, Jennifer, this is how much I make. This is how much I bring home every month. This is how much the mortgage costs. This is the light bill. This is the car note. This is the insurance. This is the water bill. This is for you to eat. And my mother would explain all those things to me. So then I had an understanding of, okay, well, now she didn't say anything about college savings in that budget. That means I have to go for what I know. And that taught me, okay, I need to start figuring out how scholarships are going to be really, really important to my family. Now, for some people, some of you, scholarships may not necessarily be as important from a financial standpoint. But for the rest of us, when you talk about the financial piece, talk with them early and often. I knew that I was going to have to, do something to make it happen. And when I graduated from college, so I'm from Houston, Texas, and I finished from North Shore Senior High School, and I was determined to go to school out of state or away. I had gone to school with the same people for 12 years, and it was old. Although I do thank my mother and my father for for having me in that community, and some of the things that they had to do in order to get us into that community and help us enable us to stay and have the stability to stay in that community. But as a 16-year-old or 17-year-old, stability is boring, and I was ready to go. And from the time I was a junior in high school to the time I was a junior in college, I had applied for over 30 scholarships. And I won enough scholarships, and they were merit-based scholarships, because my family fell in the middle where we made too much money to qualify for financial aid, like need-based aid, but not enough money for my mom to write a check for twins, because I have twin sisters. Not enough for her to write a check for twins to go to college for 4 years or beyond. And I applied so with those scholarships, I was able to pay for my tuition and fees, and then I worked part-time all 4 years of college, and that's how I was able to afford my room and board. My parents didn't pay for me to go to college at all. They didn't pay for tuition fees, room, or board. And I graduated with only $1,000 in student loan debt. But the reason I had student loan debt is only $1,000, and I paid it off a long time ago. The reason I had $1,000 in student loan debt is because I had a boyfriend in Houston, and I was tired of riding. By the time I got to be a senior in college, I was tired of riding Greyhound, and I decided to strike up a relationship with Southwest Airlines that endures to this day. And but a lot of it came from what I learned when I was younger. There was an expectation there of, you're going to go to college. And to me, that meant, okay, I'm going to go to college, and there are resources for me, and my family is supportive and emotionally supportive. And my family's very supportive. And I just have to kind of figure out how I can make this work. And just having that expectation of, I know I'm going to do it. I know I'm going to get it done from a very young age, that forced me to get it done. So when we talk about, as a parent of a middle school student, what should you do now? Okay. Number one, expectations. Set the expectations, and continue setting expectations. Number two, exposure. Expose your child to to different careers, maybe shadowing someone for a day. And then also encourage them to explore different careers and different colleges. Go to the college fairs, explore different colleges. And the last piece is talk with them about the financials. Like, what is it going to take for your family to send your child to college? What is going to be expected of you as a parent, and what do you expect from the child? what's the child's portion, and then that's going to build. And basically what we're doing is we're building a cycle of expectations. And when that student sits down and prepares for an SAT or an ACT or a PSAT, he or she will understand the value and how important this test is. Because as in a presentation, I gave a presentation yesterday, and there were several questions about student loans. And I don't have that many tips for folks to reduce student loan debt. The best thing I can tell you is there are, of course, through various employers or through the various government agencies, there are loan forgiveness programs. But I mean, that's all. Most of the folks I know, clients and friends, they just buckle down and pay off their student loans. And if they don't, bad things happen. But I do know, as parents of middle school students, you guys are in a great position, because in the high school years, that junior year and that senior year, those are the greatest opportunities for your students to make these decisions now, to avoid, seriously, to avoid the student loan debacle that so many of us in society are in. All right. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining me today for Scholar Ready, the newsletter. Again, my name is Jennifer Ledwith, and I'm the owner and director of Scholar Ready. And we prepare students for SAT, ACT, PSAT, among other exams, as well as we help students with math and writing skills. If you'd like to learn more, please pull out your cell phone and text SCHOLARS in all caps, SCHOLARS, plural, scholars in all caps. If you do it in lowercase, it won't work, to the following number, 22828. And we'll send you a newsletter every couple of weeks about this topic and more relating to your college journey. Again, I'm Jennifer Ledwith from Scholar Ready. Thank you.